Andrija is going to show us how he shot this car right after the intro.
From now on, like your parents were, you are the secret force of Hollywood.
Hey, what's going on YouTube? My name is Mo and I'm back with another exciting collaboration, and this time with Andrija, also known as Bicep Automotive. It's all gone. Now Andrija was generous enough to take us through the entire process, and you'll see that it's going to be a bit of a lengthier video than the ones that you guys used to. I'll leave a simple time code in the description below just to help you navigate if you don't want to watch the entire thing. However, if you're not following him on Instagram and on YouTube, go ahead. I'll leave a link to his accounts in the description below, so make sure to check it out. Without any further ado, Andrija, the floor is all yours.
Hello everybody, my name is Andrija and I'm a car photographer from New Jersey. Mo invited me to do a little tutorial on how I shoot and edit photos, and I'm extremely honored for that, so thank you very much, Mo. Because of your channel and this little small community, I managed to meet a bunch of awesome individuals like Kirk from Automotive Light Painting, who actually helped me get my logo and all my business cards. I met Ivano, a photographer that inspires me with every post. Alex McKenzie with his cool tutorials and awesome brushes that I used to use before. So it's an awesome thing. I really love this whole channel, and it helped me a lot with my photography. I was born in Croatia, and I moved to New York in 2015 in search for a better life, better opportunities, and I basically started from zero. A couple of years, I think 3 years later, I bought my car, the performance pack Mustang GT, and started taking photos of the car and posting some photos on Instagram. And what I noticed is that pretty much every photo that I post is kind of basic and similar to everything else I see on Instagram. So I decided to take that a little step up, higher level, and I started using my brother-in-law's camera and got into Photoshop, and here I am after I think a year and a half of picking up the camera for the first time. Right now I'm using a Sony A7R III, and I collected quite an amount of lenses. I mostly use Sigma art, and I try to get those low apertures as much as possible. My pride and joy is the 105 f1.4. I also use 35mm art, Sigma art, and 85mm Sigma art. Those are my favorite lenses, and I kind of got used to them, and I really love how photos turn out. For my light painting, for my flash layers, and for my work with light in general, I use the Godox AD400 Pro. I just recently bought it, and I couldn't recommend it more. It's been such an awesome tool, and super helpful and easy to work with. So if you ever get an opportunity, I think you can get it for a fraction of price from these Pro Photos and similar lights like that. For today's tutorial, I decided to record the whole shoot and take you step by step through the whole process of how I make photos. I know some of you might be doing this already, but I did notice that a lot of people are asking me what exactly I do and exactly how I shoot. So I wanted to explain pretty much every step and everything that I do while shooting. So I really hope that some of these little tips and tricks will be helpful. and that you can put them to use. So check it out. Okay, so here we are at the spot, and as you can see, I have my car set up, and we're at this nice lonely location in Brooklyn. And I like this place because there's nobody around, and people don't look at me and think I'm a weirdo or something. So like talking to a phone, or I don't look weird. As you can see, I'm almost done setting up the whole spot and composition. One thing that I usually do with my photos is I bring these big bottles of water. You can see them here, and I pour water all around the car, and it gives this beautiful wet reflection, and just gives a little extra touch to the whole photo when you don't have much happening or going in the photo. So adding a little water on the floor is a nice way of getting those maybe reflections from the sun, or maybe a reflection of the wheel. Not in this case, it's not clear enough, the water. But I love adding stuff like that, because I've seen very famous big photographers doing stuff like that, but I don't have a production team, and so I manage like this. You need to be creative in some way. Before I even start shooting, I'm going to explain to you what I'm going to do exactly here. As you can see, I have my flash, I have my camera set up on the tripod, and I'm going to do, this is what I do with every photo, and this is my usual process. I know it's a little bit tedious, but it's I'm not going to say the only way, but it's a good way of getting that perfect clarity, super clean photos, and almost, or a commercial style of photography done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take multiple exposures, and like 3 or 4, and I'm going to rotate the CPL, and I'm going to do the same thing again, and then after that I'm going to turn on my flash, and I'm going to do literally the same thing with the flash. Multiple exposures, rotate the CPL, and then to do the same thing. And later I'm going to bring that in Photoshop and decide which exposures are ideal or perfect for the final photo. Let's begin. I'm sorry if you don't see the screen really well. There's a little bit of reflections on the display. It's alright, I think it's okay. I find my lowest exposure where somewhat I can see the car and the details, and I start building up the whole photo from the darkest to the brightest exposure. I already have my CPL set to cut out the reflections, to cut out the reflections, and then later I'm going to rotate it and expose the wheels a little bit more. So basically, this is what I do. I do one shot, bring the exposure higher, two, three, four. Let's do one more. And then comes the most important part. I'm going to rotate the CPL until I get the exposure on the wheels. And I'm going to bring down 4 stops or 5. I'm not sure how many we did. And I'm gonna repeat the same process. 1, 2, 3. Sorry for the shaky camera. 3. 4. In most cases, this is more than enough. Basically, if you want to be a perfectionist, you can. I usually do continue with the flash and do the same thing with the flash, like I said before. But doing this, it would be more than enough, and the photo is still gonna look pretty good. But I really like to do my best whenever I shoot. I will literally do the same thing with the flash. Since I don't have more cameras, since I don't have 2 or 3 cameras with me, I cannot record exactly how to shoot with the flash. So because I need this phone as a remote. You'll see in Photoshop later when we go to the computer exactly from where, which angle, and how do the flash layers look like. Before I even start explaining the layers, sorry, that was a different photo. I would just like to explain what exactly I do in Photoshop in Lightroom and what do I use Lightroom for. I try to avoid, I don't try to avoid Lightroom, but I don't use Lightroom besides for these 2 things. And that's removing chromatic aberration and enabling profile correction. Later after that, I select all of my layers, pretty much all of them. Actually, I do select all of the layers and I take them all into Photoshop. I have 2 big files that I work with. One file is where I actually decide which layers to work with, which is my Lightroom, and it's kind of easier for me, simple to see the differences between layers by just clicking on each layer. So in this file, I don't do anything precise. I don't put much effort. I basically just see what the layer might look like, how it's going to look like if I mask out something, and later I put it all into the main file where I start working with the photo. As you can see, I took 2 exposures with the flash. One was f10 or 11, I cannot remember, which was the darker version, and one was f7. I decided to go with the brighter version. Not sure why, but I just liked it better, I guess. After I decided which ones I really like, which layers I like, I brought them into this new file, all these layers that I'm going to work on, and this was my base. As you can see, it's just a natural light, and no flash whatsoever. I called it CPL3 base, and then I gradually started building it up with the flash layers. First one is here on the back of the car. I evened out the light and cut out one of the reflections, a little bit bigger reflection right over here, nothing too dramatic. Next one was a little bit, a few details on the wheels, nothing, as you can see, it's not a lot. I kind of brightened this and darkened this. Not sure exactly why, it's just the way I felt it at the moment. Next one would be adding more detail to the deck lid over here, a little bit more to the deck lid. I'm kind of a carbon fiber fanatic, so I like to point it out as much as I can, as you will see. Next one is the spoiler, tip of the trunk. So nothing crazy, just a little bit of a detail. Yeah, nothing spectacular. Next one is the diffuser and the exhaust tip, and a little bit more detail right over here. And right after that, even more details in this right corner. Now the carbon fiber really pops out. A little bit of this GT emblem here. Diffuser as well. Yep. This side of this exhaust tip as well. That was pretty much all. That was just the details that I added with the flash. Next one is my base layer, where I merge pretty much everything, and then I start cleaning up the photo. As you can see, I lined up this, I straightened this line here, I softened these reflections here, I took out some of the distractions on the side, the bush, little black spots or holes, whatever that is, and maybe this here I didn't have to remove, but I just felt like I had to, like it was a distraction. I straightened the line on the side skirt, and took out some reflections on the side. Not a lot of work, pretty simple, I think. The most dramatic change was the camera raw filter. That's where I straighten the photo. That's the first thing I do. I straighten it, line it up, or however you want to say it. I played with the temperature a little bit, added some tint just to give these taillights a little pop. Brought down the highlights, a little bit of shadows, white, and clarity up to 25. I tried to stay below 35 or 30. That pretty much depends on how the weather was, or how the ambient light is, how many layers I used, how many exposures, but I tend to keep this below 30. It can be very controversial, actually. I sharpened the photo in camera raw. I think it's just a matter of choice whether you do it in Photoshop or camera raw. I masked out the paint of the car, so I basically sharpened only the lines and the edges. I usually sharpen it somewhere in between 45 to 75 max, and I always reduce the noise with the luminance. I did play with the color pretty much, quite a lot, sorry. Took down the greens, saturation and luminance, and I focused a little bit on the oranges, yellows and reds, as well as the hue. I wasn't paying a lot of attention to the car in this case. I was actually focusing on this beautiful reflection on the windows, and this grass around the car, and this little puddle of ice right over here. So I played a little bit with the color until it kind of became something that I like. Next thing I did is with the gradient tool, I brought down the highlights in the sky, and I actually sharpened it a little bit with the clarity. Same thing for the bottom. I brought out the clarity and texture. I like details in the foreground. That's kind of I guess my style. I really love the details in the foreground, and I don't do what pretty much everybody does, is that darkening the foreground. I'm not sure how that became an Instagram trend, but I like to keep it detailed. I think that's pretty much it with the camera raw. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Quite a significant change, right? Next thing is the ambient, or I call it ambient. It's adding fog or smoke. I like to add smoke. I like to work with smoke and fog. It kind of places the car in that location. It doesn't look like a composite. It makes it more realistic, if that makes any sense. I added quite a bit of layers, as you can see. The one on the side, I doubled it. Around the car, the most important one, I believe. It really puts the car in the location. A little bit to the back, a little bit on the side. This one is not that significant. A bit in the back it was as well, and I had some smoke all the way in the background, right over here. After the smoke, oh yeah, I added the gradient map for the smoke. I actually painted it a little bit, added some temperature and yellow colors, so it doesn't look like somebody did a burnout right around the car. That's actually Ivano's advice. Next thing, I played with the colors all around, the whole color of the colors of the whole photo. In this case, I didn't use my maps. I actually used LUTs that Mo suggested. I think he even did a little video where he posted the link for these LUTs. It's quite a big selection, around 200 LUTs, I believe. One I used for the one I used for the top of the photo, and the other one I used for the bottom of the photo. So this one was for the top. I added some temperature. I warmed up the building and added some more yellows and reds. And the next one is for the bottom. It's called teal orange, I think. Yeah, teal orange plus contrast. Weird name, but I kind of liked it. Changes the vibe, right? Next layer is hard to notice, hard to see, but it made sense to me at that point when I was editing. I took the blues out from the back of the car. Not sure if you can see it. It's a little touch, but it makes sense to me. Not sure if it makes sense to you guys. After that, I added the sky. I felt that this was a little bit boring, a little bit dull, nothing happening much, so I brought in a sky layer from Shutterstock. This is how it looked before, and then by adding hue and saturation layers, I I think I did a good job. I tried to match this reflection on the window by just color sampling. I'm not sure how to even explain it here. Don't want to get into that detail. I think there's plenty of videos, even on most channels, explaining how to do that. And last but not least, it was the dodge and burning with the 50% gray layer. Added a new layer, filled it up with 50% gray, and changed the blending mode to overlay, and I darkened the edge of the building a little bit more to fit the background, to fit the sky, and I think I brought out the highlights on the deck lid and on the diffuser. I believe on the wheels and on this sideline here. So yeah, it's a very contrasty photo already, and I believe the highlights and the shadows were good straight out of the camera, so I don't feel like I had to dodge and burn too much. And that's pretty much it.
Alright guys, so that was it from Andrija, and I personally do really appreciate all the efforts that's been put into this video by him. So if you guys have any questions, please leave it in the comment section below, and either myself or Andrija will get back to you. And don't forget to follow Andrija on Instagram and YouTube, and I'll see you in the next video.